Friends, Happy New Year and welcome back to our first ever episode for 2016. 2016. Where the hell did time go? Anyway, this is not just our first episode for 2016. It is our first ever episode for an all-new season, Season 6. Believe it or not, we have completed over 5 seasons, 430 plus episodes since we started filming in 2009. Our first ever episode was a then yet to be released Hyundai Equus, which premiered on January 11th of 2010. So we decided to celebrate by kicking off this season with an Aston Martin. I guess kicking it off with a bang, get it? Anyway, this is the 2016 Aston Martin Vantage V8 GT convertible. Yes, it has a lot of names for a rather unique Aston Martin in a unique position in the Aston Martin world. So while we work on the full episode, let's start with the engine and get right into a tech review. Okay, so this is a special car for a reason. It appeals to people like me. You see, I like British cars, and I may not have told you this, but I am a cheapskate. So this, when you think of cheapskates, you don't think of Aston Martin, but this is a special model. The GT package is kind of like the entry level in the Vantage world, where it gives you a bit more than the entry level car. And let me explain here. And this is really the biggest piece is this engine. It's still the 4.7 liter V8 that you get in the base Vantage, but in the base car it is 420 horsepower and 346 pound-feet of torque. But if you pay less, you get a bit of a discount, they actually give you a bit more. So this one actually puts out 430 horsepower, which comes in at 7,300 RPM, and 361 pound-feet of torque, which comes in at 5,000 RPM. And then whether you pay more or less, you still get the great placement of where the engine sits behind the front axle, which really goes to the driving dynamics, and we'll get to that in the full episode. Now, this is only one piece of the change from GT to Vantage, so let's go ahead and take a look at one of the other pieces. Now, before we press on to the other changes that make a GT, there were changes that Aston Martin has made through the years of the Vantage, so let's kind of recap some of those. So they started with the goodness of a dry sump V8, but then they blessed it with more stopping power, so now all Vantages have a larger 2-piece rotor and a 6-piston caliper. Then they revalved the steering pump so it's actually faster steering, and then with the manual transmission, and I love the ring of that, a manual transmission in an Aston Martin. People say it with me, a manual transmission in an Aston Martin. Thank God that they still have manual transmissions in these things. Anyway, they now have a hill start assist. Remember, like back in the day when Subaru first really pushed the idea of a hill start assist where the car wouldn't roll back? Well, now that is on an Aston Martin. Okay, so those are the Vantage changes through the years. So what are the changes to make this a GT? Well, most of the other changes are very much cosmetic, like the wheels are specific to the GT. And I think the biggest reason Aston Martin, if I'm really reading the tea leaves correctly, the biggest reason they can offer this car a little bit cheaper is you can have it in any color you want, as long as it's this fancy blue, black, white, silver, and green. Now, no matter what color you get, they give you a graphics package, whether you like it or not. So you get this stripe and it changes colors based on the color of car you pick. The mirror caps are red, which I kind of like. Then there's that very controversial lipstick in the front. Now there is a very cool touch back here where you get the clear tail lamps. This is very, very nice. Now there are some other changes, but they are on the inside. And by the way, who's going to CES? Being it's all technology there, so we're not going to do just like car things. I'm actually going to take over the Periscope channel for Bose. Like, I'm actually going to go and they're going to show me, we're going to premiere this new thing they're doing. I can't tell you right now because then I'd be giving it away and they'd like shoot me. You know, they'd take me back to Massachusetts where they're based and basically hang me in Cambridge Square, whatever it is. But anyway, I'm gonna take over their Periscope channel, and I think we'll get some videos out I'll post on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram basically all the stuff going on that we're doing in Vegas, because I'm kind of excited to check. Actually, I'd love to share this with you right now because you guys are going to get pretty excited about it, but we'll have to wait to see it then. So on the inside, it's pretty much your standard Vantage. Now, through the years, again, they've made some changes to the dash. Notice the buttons, they're actually kind of this haptic feedback kind of thing. I don't love the haptic feedback buttons. If you guys have seen that new, the James Bond movie, Spectre, where they had the DB10, and you looked at some of the interior design theme there, if I were a betting man, I would say that is probably going to turn up in the DB11, which I know we're going to be seeing sometime in 2016. I can't believe we're already at 2016. Anyway, I digress. There are some changes here. So look at the seats. You do get embroidered GT on the seat, changes the seat pattern a little bit, and then the door sills have the GT on it. So not a huge amount of changes here, and I still want to point out that this is a manual transmission. Thank you, God. Anyway, that is the interior, but there's still a couple of other things we need to discuss about this. So now a couple of things. This specific car, this blue with these silver stripes, this one is fitted with a carbon fiber package. This is optional, so you can see in the spoiler here as well as the sides. It's kind of a nice little touch, especially with the blue, and blue is my favorite color, so I'm a bit biased with this specific vehicle. The lipstick here, this is a divisive issue. I know when I put this car on Instagram, there are some people that weigh in that say they hate this, and there's some people that weigh in and say they love this. I am not one of the people that loves this. Now let's put aside this specific car and let's talk about Aston Martin's future. There are a couple moving parts going on. Number one, Aston Martin has changed the people that are running the company. So Andy Palmer, who was great at Nissan, he is now the CEO of Aston Martin. Now that is all good news, right? Well, even better news, and that's specific to our little show here, a very, very, very good friend of our show, Matthew Becker, he sadly left Lotus, which broke my heart, but guess where he ended up? He's been there for, I want to say, almost a year now, and his remit is to work on driving dynamics, suspension, platforms. So if you really think about this, this car has been around, what, 2004 it came out, so it's about 10, 11 years old. And yes, it is an old platform, a little bit behind the scenes here. We've had this car the same time we have an Audi TT, so it's been a very odd dichotomy going from the TT to this and back. It's almost like going from like Star Trek 1967 to like Star Wars 2015. It's that kind of a difference. But does it mean this car is bad? No, because they started with a very solid platform, like something near and dear to my heart and Matthew's heart, a bonded, extruded aluminum platform that everything else is built off of. So this is still a very strong platform, even many years on. But it's Matthew's job to kind of take us to the new direction of Aston Martin. So while he's working on that, I want to leave you guys with a question. Aston Martin, whether it's Andy or Matthew, they've been very good about giving you signposts of where Aston Martin is going in the future. Like we already talked about the car from Spectre, but then have you seen that Vulcan like super cool race car? And both of these, they share design, they share engineering, but they also share really the ethos of where Aston Martin is going. So my question to you is this: what do you like about those cars? What don't you like about those cars? And what would you change? And don't just tell me those three things. Tell me what region of the world you hail from. And you know what, for good measure, have you ever owned an Aston Martin, or do you have one now? Let me know which one you do. And let us know in the comments below, or via our social media, Motoman TV all one word, Motoman TV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, I want to leave you with two things. Make sure you download our fancy new mobile application, which I had a hand in designing. And for those of you who don't know, before I got into entertainment, my career was mobile technology, building mobile apps. So that's kind of what we did for a living. And then number two, season 6 is going to be very exciting, not just by doing this kind of stuff here with these cars and taking them on first drive reviews and traveling around, but we've got a very exciting mini-series coming up. And maybe not Aston Martin, but not terribly far from these guys. So make sure you stay tuned for that and share the show with your friends. With that, until the full first drive review of the Aston Martin V8 GT convertible, bish baby.